Okay, if you've never done this, I'm not sure if it's encouraging or not, but it does give you more knowledge. So if you've never gone to usdebtclock.org, usdebtclock.org, it'll show you basically by the second the amount of debt that our country is adding, the U.S. national debt. So we just printed this off, so I'm sure it's even higher. But as of this morning, the U.S. national debt was over $34,791 billion, and it was climbing, and it's still climbing. I say that to say is at some point, taxes are going to have to go up. Yelisey, you and I were talking about this. Actually, Ryan and I were talking about this for class last night. But you may or may not know this, but the highest tax rate that we've ever seen in the United States, Yelisey, you know the answer?
It's like 90%.
90%. So you hear people complaining about, the 10%, the 12%, the 22%, the 24%, the 36% tax bracket. And the highest tax bracket we've had in the United States was 90%. I'm not saying we're going to 90%, but I am saying that whoever gets in, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, with almost $35 trillion in debt, we're going to have to pay this off somehow. And I think it's increase in taxes. I also think that it's not just an increase in taxes, but they're talking about specifically increasing taxes on retirement accounts. And the reason they're doing that is there's a gentleman named Ed Slott. By the way, if paying taxes or minimizing taxes in retirement is important to you, I want to encourage you, if you're taking notes, write down Ed Slott, S-L-O-T-T. Who's Ed Slott? He is a CPA and probably the leading authority in America on paying the least amount of taxes on your 401k, your 403b, your TSP, your 457, your solo 401k. And what Ed Slott says, he says, imagine you go to get a mortgage. And you go to Wells Fargo, and the guy at Wells Fargo says, hey, good news. We've approved you. Here's $1 million loan to go buy that dream house that you've been wanting forever. And then you ask the gentleman at Wells Fargo, you go, hey, quick question. What is my interest rate? Good news that I'm approved, but what's the interest rate? Imagine he says to you, hey, don't worry about the interest rate. You were approved for the loan. Go borrow that money, buy that dream house. When you go to sell, or when you pass and your kids, your beneficiaries go to sell your home, we will let them know what the interest rate was. What are you going to say? So probably something pretty strong, like heck no, or maybe a little stronger. That's what our pre-tax retirement accounts are. Uncle Sam has said, Trey, Yelisey, put this money away. We'll even let you write it off on your taxes to lower your tax bill. But when you go to the money out, we are going to let you know how much of it is yours. Yes, that's right. I was showing a couple last night that if they're in the 35% tax rate on her $500,000 401k, she's going to keep like $335,000 of it. The government has $165,000 of it is theirs. They just haven't taken it yet. And then I showed her that doesn't even include the RMDs, those are required minimum distributions that are going to hit in the future. So have you taken a look at how much of your 401k is actually yours? Do you have a plan of what you're going to do when those RMDs hit? Yelisey, I can't tell you how many families I sit down with, how many individuals I sit down with. And when we do some forecasting for retirement, they've never had a conversation around required minimum distributions. In 20, 30, 40 years of saving, if you've never had that conversation with your advisor, you need to be having that conversation if you're within 10 years of retirement, and we'd love to have that conversation with you. Yelisey, anything to add on that?
I think you covered that well. I think our next topic, though, is Medicare. Yeah. So we often joke whenever someone in the office has to cover Medicare that we've drawn the short straw.
I think that's true today, my friend.